Rain poured heavily across the city as Emma Sinclair stepped out of a taxi wearing faded jeans, sneakers, and a plain gray hoodie. No one would ever guess she was the billionaire CEO of Sinclair Mart. She pulled the hood lower over her face and stared at the small neighborhood store standing between a pawn shop and a closed diner. The glowing store sign flickered weakly in the darkness, and the parking lot was nearly empty. Inside, the atmosphere felt cold and lifeless. Shelves were messy, employees looked exhausted, and customers moved through the aisles with frustration written across their faces. Emma quietly grabbed a shopping basket and observed everything around her. A young cashier named Daniel Brooks greeted every customer politely despite looking completely drained. His shirt sleeves were slightly worn, and dark circles rested beneath his tired eyes. Still, he smiled patiently while handling complaints, price checks, and rude customers without losing control. Emma noticed the manager yelling at employees over tiny mistakes while hiding inside his office whenever customers needed help. Hours passed before the store finally emptied. Emma pretended to browse near the registers when she noticed Daniel sitting alone behind the counter. His shoulders trembled as he buried his face in his hands. Soft tears slipped through his fingers while unpaid bills lay scattered beside the register drawer. Emma's heart tightened painfully. She slowly walked toward him, unsure what to say, but unable to ignore the quiet heartbreak unfolding in front of her. Emma could not forget the sight of Daniel crying alone behind the register. The next morning, she returned to the store wearing the same simple disguise, determined to learn more. As soon as she entered, she noticed the tension in the air. Employees avoided eye contact, moving nervously whenever the manager walked past. The break room coffee machine was broken, several lights remained unfixed, and customers complained about long waits while the manager blamed workers instead of helping. Daniel stood at his register again, forcing the same exhausted smile onto his face. Emma watched him carefully throughout the day. He skipped his lunch break to cover for another cashier who had been sent home early. During a quiet moment, Emma followed him outside and saw him sitting inside an old car with cracked windows. He was on a video call with his young daughter, Lily. Despite coughing between words, Lily smiled brightly while showing him a drawing she made at school. Daniel praised her warmly, but the second the call ended, his smile disappeared. He opened his nearly empty wallet and stared silently at a pharmacy receipt before lowering his head in frustration. Emma felt her chest ache watching him struggle alone. Before she could approach him, the store manager, Carl Benson, stormed outside angrily. In front of several employees, Carl accused Daniel of wasting company time and threatened to cut his hours again. Daniel apologized quietly without defending himself. For the first time in years, Emma felt ashamed of the company carrying her family's name. The following morning, employees rushed nervously through the store after hearing rumors about a surprise corporate inspection. Carl Benson barked orders at everyone, pretending to care about cleanliness and customer service for the first time in months. Daniel worked quietly at his register, exhausted after spending most of the night caring for Lily during another asthma attack. He expected nothing more than another stressful day under Carl's constant criticism. Then several black luxury vehicles pulled into the parking lot. The entire store fell silent as executives entered through the front doors. Employees straightened instantly while Carl forced a fake smile onto his face. Seconds later, Emma Sinclair walked in confidently wearing an elegant black suit instead of her usual disguise. Daniel froze completely. His eyes widened with shock as he realized the kind woman who listened to his pain was actually the billionaire CEO of Sinclair Mart. Carl hurried toward Emma, nervously praising the store and its excellent management. Emma calmly ignored him. Instead, she walked directly toward Daniel. Before anyone could speak, she connected her phone to the store speakers. Carl's voice suddenly echoed across the building. The recording of him humiliating Daniel, threatening workers, and insulting employees played loudly for everyone to hear. Customers and staff stared at Carl in disbelief. His face turned pale as he desperately tried to explain, but Emma stopped him immediately. In a cold, steady voice, she announced his termination effective immediately. Security escorted Carl out while employees watched silently, unable to believe what they were seeing. Then Emma turned toward Daniel and thanked him for showing her the truth hidden inside her company. After Carl Benson was removed from the store, the atmosphere changed instantly. Employees who once worked in silence slowly began talking again, almost as if a heavy weight had been lifted from their shoulders. But while others celebrated quietly, Daniel stood frozen behind the register, still struggling to process everything. He could not believe the woman who comforted him during his lowest moment was Emma Sinclair, the powerful CEO whose face appeared in magazines and business interviews across the country. Emma stayed at the store long after the executives left. Instead of hiding inside an office, she walked through every aisle, speaking directly with workers. Employees finally confessed the truth about unpaid overtime, impossible schedules, broken equipment, and constant fear under Carl's management. Emma listened carefully, writing everything down herself. Later that evening, she found Daniel organizing shelves alone in the back room. He immediately apologized for crying in front of her earlier in the week. embarrassed by his vulnerability. But Emma gently told him he had nothing to be ashamed of. For the first time in a long while, Daniel felt someone truly saw him not as a struggling employee, but as a human being. Emma then surprised him with unexpected news. She offered him a promotion to assistant store manager, explaining that the store needed someone employees could actually trust. Daniel looked stunned. He admitted he had no leadership experience and feared disappointing her. Emma smiled softly and told him kindness and honesty mattered more than titles. Before leaving, Emma handed Daniel her personal number and quietly promised him something no boss ever had before. You won't have to fight alone anymore. Daniel barely slept after Emma offered him the assistant manager position. Part of him felt grateful, but another part feared everything was happening too fast. The next morning, he arrived early at the store, nervous about facing the employees who now looked at him differently. To his surprise, several workers congratulated him warmly. For the first time since joining Sinclair, the store felt hopeful instead of hostile. Emma returned later that afternoon without the group of intimidating executives. She wore a simple blazer and carried 2 bags filled with groceries, children's books, and medicine for Lily. Daniel hesitated at first, embarrassed to accept help, but Emma gently insisted. Seeing genuine kindness from someone so powerful confused him more than cruelty ever had. That evening, Emma visited Daniel's small apartment for dinner. The building was old, the furniture worn, but the space felt warm because of Lily's cheerful energy. The little girl instantly bonded with Emma, proudly showing her drawings taped across the walls. Emma laughed more than she had in years, while helping Lily color at the kitchen table. For a few precious hours, Daniel forgot the stress crushing his life. Watching Emma play with Lily filled him with emotions he could not explain. Yet beneath the happiness, fear still lingered. He worried the company's wealthy board members would never accept someone like him becoming close to their CEO. His fears became real later that night. As Emma drove home, she received a cold phone call from one of the board directors warning her to stop getting emotionally involved with employees. The message ended with a threat disguised as advice. Emma realized powerful enemies were already watching her every move. The warning from the board director stayed in Emma's mind all night, but instead of backing away, it strengthened her determination. The next morning, she arrived at headquarters and began reviewing financial reports from multiple Sinclair Mart locations. What she discovered shocked her. Employee benefits had quietly been reduced over the past 3 years, while executive bonuses increased dramatically. Entire stores operated with dangerously small staff numbers just to maximize profits. Meanwhile, Daniel struggled to adjust to his new position. Some employees respected him immediately, but others believed he only received the promotion because Emma liked him personally. The pressure weighed heavily on him. He worked longer hours than ever, trying to prove he deserved the role, honestly. Late one evening, Daniel stayed after closing to organize inventory reports when he overheard 2 corporate supervisors talking near the office. Hidden behind a shelf, he listened carefully as they discussed plans to remove Emma as CEO during an upcoming board meeting. They mocked her for caring too much about workers and claimed her reforms would destroy the company's profits. Daniel's stomach tightened with fear. The following day, he secretly met Emma in a quiet cafe and warned her about the conversation. Emma remained calm on the outside, but Daniel could see concern in her eyes. She admitted some board members had opposed her leadership for years, though she never expected them to move against her this aggressively. As they talked, Daniel received a terrifying phone call from Lily's school. Lily had collapsed during class after a severe asthma attack and was being rushed to the hospital. Without hesitation, Emma grabbed her keys and drove Daniel there herself. Refusing to leave his side during the frightening night ahead, Daniel's hands shook the entire drive to the hospital. Every second felt unbearable as terrifying thoughts raced through his mind. Emma stayed calm beside him, urging him to breathe while weaving through traffic as quickly as possible. When they finally arrived, Daniel rushed through the emergency room doors, searching desperately for news about Lily. Doctors explained that Lily's asthma attack had been triggered by stress and missed medication doses. Daniel's heart sank with guilt. He had been stretching every paycheck just to keep food on the table. And recently he delayed buying Lily's inhaler because rent was overdue again. Sitting beside her hospital bed, he quietly blamed himself for failing as a father. Emma watched him carefully from across the room. She had spent years surrounded by wealthy executives who measured success with numbers and profits. Yet Daniel's love for his daughter felt more genuine than anything she had ever known. When Lily finally woke up, weak but smiling, the first thing she asked was whether her father had eaten dinner. The innocence in her voice nearly broke Emma's heart. Later that night, while Lily slept peacefully, Emma and Daniel sat together in the dim hospital hallway. Exhaustion lowered the walls between them. Daniel admitted he constantly feared losing the only family he had left. Emma softly confessed she understood loneliness more than people realized, despite her wealth and success. For the first time, silence between them felt comforting instead of awkward. But their quiet moment ended. Suddenly, when Emma's phone buzzed with an anonymous message containing only a photograph of Daniel and Lily inside the hospital, taken secretly from outside the room, underneath the image were 4 chilling words: "Stay away from him." Emma stared at the threatening message while a cold wave of anger rushed through her. Someone had followed them to the hospital and secretly photographed Daniel and Lily. This was no longer simple corporate pressure. Whoever was targeting her wanted to intimidate her personally. Daniel noticed the fear in her expression and asked what was wrong, but Emma quickly locked her phone and told him it was only a work issue. She refused to add more stress to the exhausting night he was already enduring. The next morning, Emma quietly arranged private security around the hospital without telling Daniel the real reason. Meanwhile, news spread throughout Sinclair Mart about her growing closeness with the single-father cashier turned assistant manager. Gossip exploded inside corporate offices. Some employees admired Emma for caring about workers, while others accused Daniel of manipulating her for money and status. Daniel overheard cruel whispers while walking through headquarters later that week. Though he tried ignoring them, the comments deeply wounded him. He began doubting whether he truly belonged in Emma's world. Seeing his growing discomfort, Emma invited him and Lily to a company charity event, hoping to show everyone she trusted him completely. The glamorous evening started peacefully, until one powerful board member publicly confronted Emma in front of investors and reporters. Smiling coldly, he questioned her judgment and mocked her relationship with an emotional cashier from a failing store. The room fell silent. Before Emma could respond, Daniel stepped forward unexpectedly. With quiet confidence, he defended not only Emma, but every struggling worker ignored by wealthy executives for years. His honest words stunned the crowd. For the first time, people began applauding not wealth or power but courage.